So I spent 14 minutes recording this video, and the audio wasn't working. So let me do this really fast again. So I just watched this movie, How Do You Know? So this lady was looking for love in all the wrong places, right? And she was debating. She was debating who should she be with, this guy or this guy here. And so one of the questions that she asked the question, she said, in her mind, she was asking the question. You could just tell by the movie. You gotta watch the movie. But she was trying to figure out where she belonged, or what was the right place, or where she was supposed to be, who she was supposed to be with, or whatever. And at the very end, when they were sitting on they were sitting here, she says, I found out that when she was talking about this guy, she says, I don't know what I'm thinking. I don't know what this means. She said, she said, when I found out that everything else, she said, everything else is silly except for you. She said, I used to think that you were silly. Then I found out everything else was silly. And that's a key moment in this movie, because if you listen to the end, you'll see why. And so they were sitting at that bus stop right there. They were sitting here at the bus stop, right? And at the very end, he said, I know what you mean. She says, what? He said something to the effect. He said, you love me too. That's what he said. And she just held his hand, right? She said, I found out that I thought you were silly, but I found out everything else was silly, but I don't know what that means. He says, it means you love me too. And so then the bus showed up, the metro bus showed up, and they got on the bus and they went about their life, And so the moral of the story, the secret behind the story, is that there's an underground message. There's a secret message. And that secret message is pretty much everywhere at all times. And if you look the word metro up, it goes back to railway or underground railway, right? Railroad, below the surface, hidden secret. So the secret meaning behind this whole situation goes back to what the Apostle Paul said. He said, behold, he was talking about husbands love your wives as Christ loved the church. And he said, behold, I show you a great mystery. So that was a great mystery of Christ and his church. And I'm kind of stumbling around. The first one I did really good, and everything was smooth. So let me get back to my flow. Before I go to that, let me show you something. So if you take the word metro, it's an electric railway operating below the surface, underground. If you go to underground, it's a hidden secret. It's below the surface. It's not revealed to the human unless God reveals it to him. That's why he said, behold, I show you a mystery. That's what Apostle Paul said that. And so metro goes back to metropolitan, but it also goes back to an underground network. Back to the images. Metro. Now, notice she's wearing black, and he's wearing a purple tie. At the very end, after they get on the bus, there's a glass window behind them, and it's just like across and right. And so, after they get on the bus and the bus moves, there's two women walking behind them, and they both have a dress on, and one is purple and one is black. Now, what's the moral of the story? She was running according to the world, the flesh, and the pride of life. She was seeking the pleasures in the world, and she was trying to find her place, but she couldn't find it. And so this guy shows up on the scene, and she was intrigued. She just was intrigued, but she didn't know why, right? And so the moral of the story is this: when you are in Babylon, when you're in the world, you come to realize that it's all silliness. God is the real deal. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believes in him shall not perish but have everlasting life. The underground secret message in this movie is that when you get tired of all the silliness, the politics, the media, the ridiculous repeat of the system, and you realize it's all about God and what God's program is and God's message, winning souls, and you become royalty. You move from the flesh mind to the spirit mind until Christ be formed in you. One thing she said in the movie, she said, she was telling this guy here, she said, all my girlfriends were talking about how they met this guy, they were in love, and they wanted to have a baby. She thought it was all fake. She said, I just think it's all fake. She couldn't understand. She didn't know she had not found love, you know. The typologist, she didn't find God, you know. So when she found her true position, she held his hand. He says, I know what it is, you love me too. She held his hand. So she's wearing black. That represents the flesh mind. The arms being held represents the letter V, or the cross. So on the left is the flesh mind. They hold their hands. That's the cutting. The letter V means cut. God is cutting out the flesh mind to cut in the spirit mind. The purple tie represents the spirit mind, because you're joint heirs with Christ, royalty. And he was actually practicing royal love. Do unto others as you'd have them do unto you, the royal law. And so the purple tie represents the royal truth, the royal law. Love your neighbors yourself, you know. Met is met life. How do you know? How do you know that God died for you? How do you know that you should run to Jesus and the world is vanity? That's what this movie is all about. It's a hidden, secret meaning of Christ and his church. So the underground tour network of this reality is God loves his creation, and everything else is vanity. And when you wake up to that, you've entered into your true state. Now, the bus represents God is moving you and transporting you to that new state, from glory to glory, from the flesh mind to the spirit mind. When she saw this woman having a baby, she started to, and this guy came in and proposed to his girlfriend who was having a baby. She started to sense that that love, right? She was emotionally moved when she saw that, right? And so she was going through the transformation process. And that baby represent until Christ be formed in you. So she was watching that lady, and that lady had birthed the baby. And then her boyfriend proposed to her. And she says, yeah, let's re-record this, because the guy didn't record it. She said, let's record this again. What does that mean? It means it's recording over and over the same love stories, repeating all the time. That God loves you. He died for you. He went to the cross to pull you out of Babylon, to pull you out of vanity, to pull you out of time repeat, pull you out of foolishness and your vanity and everything else is silliness, and to move you into the real relationship, which is with God by faith. And so the mystery that's hidden in plain view is everywhere, all around you at all time. It's an underground, hidden secret. And that's why the Apostle Paul said in Ephesians 5, behold, I show you a great mystery. And he was talking about Christ and the church. And that's the underground mystery that's encoded everywhere. And so the devil and the devil's system's trying to get you distracted. And so, see, she was right here. She was the lady in red. She was stuck in Babylon. The lady in red represents the Babylonian system. In the movie The Matrix, Neo looked at the lady in red, and then the lady in red turned into Agent Smith and tried to kill him. And so the world is trying to take you away from this secret, this mystery, with all the bells and the whistles and the distractions and the merry-go-rounds and the circuses and the TV shows and the repeat and the games and the hockey and the basketball. It's all lies. It's all vanity. And so she moved from the lady in red to the union. See, she was by herself right here, right? She was all out there by herself trying to survive, right? But then when she found her home, her place, everything else in the world seemed silly except for God. Everything else was silly except for God. And so she told him, she says, I used to think you were silly, but now everything but you is silly. That's the message of the cross. Eve is the flesh side of Adam. Adam went down with the ship. Christ went down with the ship. He split space-time, came down here to pull his creation out of Babylon, out of the lies of the system. When she was with this other guy, it was all lies. It was fake. It wasn't real. She wasn't happy. This guy was just real, the real deal with her. And so the purple represents royalty, joint heirs with Christ, kings and priests unto God. So she found her place, and it typifies, this image right here is the image that typifies the mystery that's hidden in plain view of this whole reality. That's what's happening. If you don't understand it, I'm sorry. It's just the way it is.